Hey everybody, I'm making a new video for the Gemini Studio app just to showcase some of the new features that have been added as of the end of October 2023. So I'm going to open the app up and we're going to look at the die roller first because the die roller has been significantly overhauled, as you can see. There's a lot more options now. Well, there's two more options basically. So in Gemini, you can spend character points to add extra wild dice to rolls. And you can also spend fate points to modify rolls. And this is all captured on the die roller now. So when you go to make your roll, you can, for example, I'll drag this out to 6 dice. And then you can spend extra character points if you wanted to get extra wild dice. These are special dice. They actually don't cause a critical fumble in Gemini if they roll a 1, but they do explode if they roll a 6. So I'll add 2 dice to this roll. And I'll hit the roll button and see what we get. So as you can see, we've got the extra 2 wild die. Neither of them exploded, but they did add to the total. Now, if I wanted to, I could add even more wild dice after the roll has been made. So I could, for example, add another 2 wild die and then roll. And then you'll see, again, the total has been updated to reflect the new two dice that have been rolled. So, and again, this ends the rolling ability of the player. You can no longer roll any more dice after you've chosen the amount of wild dice you want to spend on your roll the second time. So, going back to the die roller one more time, I'm going to clear the result here. And you can also roll fate points. Now, fate points, so I'll drag this out to, let's say, 5 dice. And I'll put I'll select 2 pips, and then I'll spend a fate point. So in Gemini, if you spend a fate point, you can only roll 1 wild die. So that means that you can't spend character points on this roll. But what spending a fate point will do is double everything on the roll. So instead of 5 dice plus 2, you're going to roll 10 dice plus 4. So I'm going to hit the roll button. And there we go. We've rolled our 10 die plus 4. And we've got a result. And you'll note that you can no longer spend character points at this point either because you've already spent the fate point. It's just like an exclusionary clause in the rules where if you spend a fate point, you can't spend any character points on your character rolls. On your rolls, I should say. So moving on, I'm going to open up a character in view mode. And the first thing you're going to notice, if you recall, is the Overview tab has been significantly overhauled. The Overview tab used to just list the points that the character was built on, and that is now moved to the Points tab itself. So I'll flip over there, and that's the old Points tab. Or the old Overview tab, I should say. And if I go back to the Overview tab, you'll see that this is like a single-page view of your character. So I'll just scroll down, and you'll see like we've got powers, and this character has martial arts, and the weapons and armor that this character has, and some of these are collapsed by default. So the reason for that is just to keep the page length down. And also, like some of these things like disadvantages, appearance, and background, while critically important to a character, you don't actually need to see those all the time when you're, when you're playing the game. The point of this page is to make playing the game a little bit easier, so you don't have to scroll through, half dozen or 8 tabs or whatever. However many tabs you have for your character, you don't have to scroll through them to get to the section that you want. You can just use this one page to see everything that you that you need, basically. Now, everything with a die code is touchable. So your skills, your tributes, powers that have a die code associated with them they'll have a die code at the end of the entry, for example, and martial arts as well. This character has martial arts. And you'll note that the damage actually includes all of the relevant abilities that the character or relevant areas that the character can draw damage from. So what I mean by that is martial arts is strength-based. So we look at his strength. This character's strength is 3D plus 2. And then we look at the maneuver damage. So SWAT, for example, is a plus 1D maneuver, or plus 1D damage. And then it takes into account his martial technique as well. So that's another die, it looks like. So we're at 5D plus 2, and then when we look at his, there's a weapon selector at the bottom here, and he's got the Warhammer selected. So a Warhammer does plus 3D damage. So now we've gone from 5D plus 2 to 8D plus 2. So it factors in all of the sources of damage that the character can possibly do when doing the maneuver. So this is a convenience feature that allows players to, not have to do the math themselves in their head. They just need to specify the weapon that they're using in the maneuver, and then everything else is taken care of for them on the screen. Similarly with weapons, so an unmodified strike. So if this character doesn't use their martial arts and they just hit you with their Warhammer, they don't do as much damage because their technique is lost. So when you look at the weapons section, that's just strength plus weapon damage because there's no martial arts involved. So if you want to just, hit the person with the Warhammer without using any, technique, this character would use 6D plus 2 damage. And similarly, we've got some information about armor where we've got the soak and the penalty associated with the armor. If I scroll up to the top here and we look at the secondary attributes are all modifiable in some way. So body points, which is the BP column there, which is 27 on this character. If I touch that, it'll pop open a little UI that allows you to, set the body points of the character. And body points get subtracted when the character is, injured basically, and they get added when they're healed or when they heal naturally. So, in the middle of combat, this character may get struck for like 5-6 points of damage. He could just come into the body points section, subtract the 6 points of damage, let's say, hit save, and then the body points are updated to the current value. So that you can track your body points. You can modify your evasion, for example. So this character is wearing heavy armor, so the evasion is negative, or the modifier is -3 already. Some martial maneuvers, for example, or some maneuvers in general will also modify the evasion down lower on top of the -3. And similarly with Soak, he's wearing heavy armor, as I mentioned. So his base is 14, and then he's got a +5 from the armor that he's wearing, which is pretty significant. It brings him up to like a 19 Soak, that's a lot of Soak. This character is like a mountain dwarf warrior. He's rugged and sturdy, so he can take a beating and he can dish it out if he needs to. That's the basic idea behind this character. Finally, I'm going to open the character in edit view, and I'm just going to show you what the equipment tab now looks like. The equipment tab has been overhauled so that you can go in and put in your equipment, your weapons, armor, and gear and currency in different sections. And the point of this is so that the app can know how to add damage correctly. So when it was just a single text field and you put Warhammer plus 3D in there, it's very hard for the app to know how to go in there and add that damage to the correct places. Now that they've been broken out into separate sections, the app is smart enough to go in and say, okay, you're hitting with a Warhammer, well, your strength is 3D, the Warhammer damage is 3D, so you're doing 60 damage, for example. So that's the whole purpose of this page revamp. The last thing I wanted to show you, and this is a printing feature. So if I go and view the character, the old print tab, or the old print character sheet, was fairly long. It ends up being about 3 to 4 pages, depending on the character and how much you have in their background and appearance and all that kind of stuff. So I'm using a condensed version of that now by default. So if you hit the print button, you'll see a single page document. Generally, a single page document pops up for a character. Most characters, even with a background and appearance, I've been able to, like in my testing, I've seen that they generally stick to about a page, or they might bleed over a little bit onto the next page, but generally not too much. So you might see 2 pages. But generally speaking, even with the portrait and all the information, like this character has a fairly substantial set of martial arts. He has powers, and he's got weapons and armor and disadvantages. I mean, like, he's got it all. And it all fits on a single page. So this is a very useful feature for people who are looking for a condensed view of the character. They don't have to print off 3 or 4 pages. It's all on one page. Now, That said, if you want the longer version of the print, you can, or the print template, you can actually long press the print button, and then that will bring up the long version of the print template, as you can see here. So this character actually ends up being about 3 pages in the sort of uncondensed version, or the longer extended version of the print template. So with that, I wanted to say thank you. And if you have any questions or comments, leave them in the video. Hit me up on the Hero Games forums. Find me on Discord. Whatever, I'll answer them. Again, thank you very much for watching, and have a great day.